And we've thought about that off and on as we have listened to news, and we still feel that it's true that since Lebanese requested some peacekeeping forces there, that it was right for some to be brought there since the government in power did request it. But we honestly feel like it would have been far more right if the forces present there were UN forces. That those would be the appropriate forces. Do you understand what we're saying? That to bring in forces that still wear the uniform of their own nations causes too much, stimulates too much still a conflict between other nations and their uniforms. But for example, as the U.S. gets closer to with U.S. uniforms on and being a so-called U.S. peacekeeping force, they're not even a peacekeeping force. They're just fighting back every time you get shot at now. But the more, let's say that the Syrians begin to fight more with the U.S., and the Syrians are backed by the Soviets, it's going to just set up more and more conflict, unnecessary, it will stimulate more and more conflict between the U.S. and the Soviet Union. Now, if they choose to do this in that more primitive way of this civilization at this time, then that's their choice. And the outcome, I'm sure the next level can make good use of, whatever it is. But the point is that it would be more civilized and more right if nations that are so accustomed to fighting, as Beirut has been and some of the Middle East has been, if forces that were there to help them break that habit of fighting were international forces. Not a U.S. and an Italian and a British and a French, but UN forces. Forces that had uniforms that could not point to another nation. Do you see what we're saying? Those would be the appropriate forces. And why that didn't happen, we can't figure out, because they should have been civilized enough to want to do that kind of thing. Now, this isn't an important thing, but it's just to help you think more in terms of what would be a more civilized way to handle a conflict like this. And there's nothing I wanted to... Oh, I know. It occurred... T and I have talked about it a lot, and I've been thinking a lot about it this morning. And usually when you or your classmates struggle with finding fault with others, or irritability, or down in the dumps, 99% of the time it would be because of your own disappointment in yourself. May not be a conscious disappointment. It could even be that you say that you're struggling with certain things that you're dealing with and getting your vehicle under better control. And that when you struggle and you aren't making much progress, that can be very frustrating. And a perfect vent for disappointment of having not made the progress you would like to have made at that point in your own vehicular control. A perfect event for that is finding fault in others, or impatience, or irritability, and or moodiness. And that's usually the cause. And you should be so in control, or so, let's say, so knowledgeable now. You should be so wise now as to recognize the symptom and not let your vehicle vent its frustration in ways that affect others. In other words, what good does it do if you're a little disappointed because you aren't making the progress you would like to make with your own vehicle? It certainly doesn't help anything to cause others problems just because of your disappointment. And you don't even know that you're doing this usually. You certainly don't know that that's the reason why. You just let your tongue blurt out something or say something the vehicle wants to say, and then later recognize what a mistake you made. Okay, so the reason I'm telling you this, if you back up to the point of your own efforts in the discipline of your vehicle, and let's say if you recognize that you're working on an area and you're not making quite the progress that you wish you could make at this point, recognize that there's a very strong possibility that your vehicle will try to vent its disappointment. No. Will try to act up in response to that by irritability or impatience or saying something out of place or moodiness. In other words, recognize it's been. Nothing makes you feel better or be in a better mood than if you're having trouble with something and you conquer it. I guarantee you, when you conquer it on the spot, you're not going to find fault with others. They can do things and you'll think, that's their problem, not mine. I don't say anything. I didn't even say it. It's not in there. Because you'll be in a good mood. A good mood because you're pleased that you have not let your vehicle do what it wanted to do. You see what I'm saying? So, therefore, if your strategy becomes more elementary, now that's not very clear, but if your strategy becomes more methodical, more 1, 2, 3, let's say that your vehicle wants to do something, then figure out the strategy of steps that it would take to not let it do it. Like, let's say that your vehicle likes to look at something, then what are the steps that I can take to not let it do it? Now, come up with a scheme so that you can have simple 1, 2, 3 steps of not permitting it to happen. You see? And if one fails, then another one that you can quickly substitute and so forth. So that you will be pleased that you have gone through that test period and have not slipped. Now, a lot of times your frustration or your unhappiness may not be because you've slipped. Slipped in frame of reference to where you've slipped before. But maybe you didn't, maybe you gave in to the same degree that you gave in before, even though that degree may not be serious. But to you it is serious, because you don't even want to give in to that degree again. And so for you to give in to that degree again, even though maybe you didn't give in to what you used to call giving in, do you see what I'm saying? But let's say you let a thought materialize as a picture in your mind. And you recognize by that standard you're now existing in that you gave in because that thought materialized in your mind. And so the next time the thing happens and that thought materializes again, well, you're getting very unhappy with yourself because you have tried to stop that thought a number of times and you have not succeeded in stopping it. And you're going to start taking it out, that unhappiness, in other ways. And what's wrong is you don't have effective strategy on those thoughts. You have not yet learned what for you is effective strategy on recognizing that thought is about to materialize, recognizing what little things you could do, whether it's quickly turn and go the other way or whatever it is, but you can come up with some simple 1, 2, 3 step strategy to not let yourself be caught in a circumstance where you will participate even to that degree, again, of a slippage. Even though some time ago, that degree of slippage may have seems like no slippage at all to you. But as you grow, your standard is getting more and more severe with your discipline. And you, since you're getting much wiser, then you're aware of things that you weren't aware of before. You're also still letting the vehicle get away with things that you're not yet aware of. And the time will come when you will be aware of those things. So the point is, you're going to forever be threatened with this test of how am I going to respond if I tried to not slip that little bit, but I did again, and I did again. What is my response? My response is review my strategy. What can I do as little steps to prohibit that happening again. And try it out. Make it even a game of it, so that you'll see the earmark of the approaching slippage and start applying little things. And if this doesn't work, don't apply it again. Find another one. Why keep applying it and keep being disappointed because it didn't work? So change your strategy until you have found some simple steps that work, so that you will not have justification for the emotional experience, which is a giving in of its own. You don't want to have justification for the emotional experience of a downer, disappointment, depression, which can vent in also anger, irritability. Okay? I don't know if you can see the value of this, but it's, I think a lot of you have not exercised some simple strategy that would help you much better. You haven't even, you're too dependent upon your teachers for the strategy. And we don't know all the little entanglements that you get in a mess with. And the more you become, the more your judgment on your behavior becomes refined, and you become more critical because you have more wisdom and you're getting better and better control, the less you should be dependent upon your teachers for giving you the strategy. The more you should learn the strategy of getting you out of those circumstances that could cause additional problems. Okay?
This is something you consciously have to work on.
It's just as conscious as when T used to say, don't get up as a human. Get up and say to your vehicle, sit up. Now, vehicle, if you think you're feeling cranky because you did not rest well, and you ache all over, and then say, vehicle, it is a new day. It's a day to prove new strength. It's a day to be happy, and all kinds of good things can happen to say. Talk your vehicle into changing its mood. Talk your vehicle, like P said, to sit up, put a step down, because if you start letting the vehicle just get up and go and do as the vehicle would, it will also start letting other things happen in the mind or brain of the vehicle that used to happen habitually in the brain of the vehicle. That's why it's so important to have control of all the little things. All the little things. All the things that you think you could do automatically. That's true, you can do them automatically according to old human tastes. But they aren't any good, because they also had with them the association of other human vibrations. So if you let your vehicle do anything automatically, rather than by telling it step by step to do it, you're going to invite all of the other things that human vehicle used to associate with those actions. Okay? Do y'all have any questions?
I had one on reinstatement, and I just wondered if it was appropriate to, on your comment, to say something like, well, for instance, if they used an example at the beginning of the segment, but then they didn't, the rest of the segment, when they talked about things, they didn't incorporate that example, or they didn't show how the rest of it tied in. Is that the kind of thing that you could say?
Sure, if you can say it in a few words. We haven't given you any restrictions on what to say. The things that worry us, first of all, we said to you when we got the first few segments that many were judging too leniently. Remember? We said we hadn't read any that would get excellent reading. We're afraid that made some of you think that you could never give a segment an excellent reading again, even though you might have thought it was excellent. That means that we had automatically moved you into two categories already. Fair and good. Might as well have eliminated those. Excellent. So if you want to say fair, good, and better instead of excellent, in other words, better than good, then you can change that third category to fair, good, better than good, or whatever you want to do. we want you to use all three categories, but we do want you to increase your standards, to better your standards, as you, not to just be so lenient. Now, another thing that disturbs me is I feel like as I read some of those comments that the person hasn't read the segment. As I read some of the comments of individuals at the end, I would swear that they have just glanced through it, just breezed through it, and that those comments were not seriously justifiable. And we want you to read those segments that others are writing we want you to read every word, and we want you to be concentrating on it when you're reading every word, and to give them a fair appraisal, even if the fair appraisal is a fair rating. But we want your comments to say something. A lot of your comments don't really say anything helpful. It's like the routine was to say a few words of comment, and so you put comments down that don't really say anything. The comments should be constructive. The person who reads the comment should be able to figure out what you meant by that comment and relate that comment to their own segment.
It sounds like when they're grading it, that they're telling you what they thought about it, like a critic would, whether it's precise or comprehensive or good or bad and so on.
Do you know what he's saying?
Then I think that's not what we want you to do.
No, we're not asking you to be the critic who is judging it. But we want you to be someone who is reviewing it to an extent. In other words, who is giving you constructive notions about how to improve upon it.
In other words, if something needs to be tied in, then first paragraph, of course, you're limited on words, but you'll just have to figure out some way to have something that makes sense, like if second paragraph vague, or, but the rest of it sounded okay, then that person knows where to begin to work on that segment, and can go back and try to clarify it more.
So one individual I wanted to know about asking for help in understanding the comments that were made, like too much slang or something, and I think he wanted to see what
that's obvious too much slang.
I guess maybe, I don't know what other terms were used. I think there were things like too many goals or apparently he didn't understand where it was that these things were occurring. So
well, see, I can't understand why he couldn't understand where they were. For the first time with T agrees, if he wanted to bring it up and help run a meeting so that somebody could point it out to him. But in other words, if they were worth saying, if you were truthful in saying slang and the things that were said in the comments at the end, then I don't know why the person couldn't go back and determine where they were. And if you're in doubt, then why don't you say too much slang and then put in quotes an example of the slang word you're talking about, or so that they know what it is that you're talking about.
Well, frankly, I feel like slang is slang, whether it's, in other words, we'd rather you wouldn't use slang. You could write something without using slang.
But he's saying that he didn't know what was slang.
Well, I think anybody would know what slang is, right?
I'm not sure slang. I think it was slang, but I think...
Oh, that was one of the words I think Sam used, yeah. It was on Sam Moody's, right?
But I think a lot of it is isn't helpful, like they might not, maybe those particular examples aren't good. I mean, I could see where they could be helpful to me, because I know what slang is, and I think I would go back and try to get rid of slang. But some of the things, even, I can't think of anything right now, but something that could be beneficial to the person to upgrade their little segment. I don't believe any segment could be perfect, even though they rated it excellent. I just can't believe that it couldn't be clarified a little bit.
Certainly has room for improvement.
Some kind of improvement on it, and So it would be better to write something other than I like it, or it's good, you know. Surely it needs something better than that. So could they add a little bit more words if they need to on a sentence rather than
you can get the words of whatever words you can get readable in the block. Okay, we'll increase it to that. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't say a complimentary word or two about it. I don't believe that.
Oh, right.
He's not saying you
You're
can't say it.
complimenting it by putting it in that category to begin
Right.
with.
That's right.
In other words, why waste your words on compliment?
Now, this is an important point, because he's saying that if you put it over in the better than good category, you've complimented it already. And yet you're still trying to bring up some areas that could maybe suggest a little bit of refinement. Now, also, let's say that somebody puts a criticism in there, like Sam Otis, for example, and he can't figure out what they're talking about. That doesn't really matter. His job is to try to figure out what they're talking about. In other words, we're not going to have, let's say that 10 people said things that I didn't figure out. Certainly I'm going to go to each one of those and say, what did you mean by this, and what did you mean by this, and what did you mean by this? Those comments are merely for the writer to take for his own purposes and see if he can utilize those comments for improvement. But they don't need, you don't need to go get further explanation from the person who wrote them.
Because that would open a discussion type thing, and then that would allow the person who was criticized on their segment to get their version of it, to try to change that person's viewpoint. So we don't want any of that kind of interaction.
They want interaction.
What sometimes confused me was that you have to try a general segment and put the others away until we got that understanding segment away. And I saw people write too general and their critique of it. And I thought, well, what can you do? You're writing a general segment.
They could still say too general if in your general segment you weren't clear, you weren't specific, because it doesn't necessarily, by saying too general, doesn't mean that the segment on general genetics could still be too general. You see what I'm saying?
I've had several individuals ask me to proof their segments, and I guess I've been a little uncertain as to whether it was right to offer observances about anything more than just spelling or grammar, but sometimes when there was just something very abrupt, whether that was appropriate to...
No, it really isn't.
Well, you don't proofread anybody.
Well, we had said that they could have somebody put his instruction, one person.
Go to one
They could ask one person before they turned it in.
So the other, you just cover the grading.
Yes, but you're not checking out anything except just blatant, like they didn't finish a sentence, or where's the period, or things that are just so obvious like that. But you're not trying to teach them rules of grammar or even help them in composition. Any other questions?
When you received the instruction on the length of the segment, you said like 2,000 words roughly, give or take 200. And then later the 10 pages came, and some were up in the air about whether the 10 pages was an update to the 2,000 plus or minus words, or if it was a...
It had to be 10 pages.
Yeah, I know, the max length was
But the words were the max. The number of words is the max, not pages.
Okay.
Pages...
Some people write big, you know.
Yeah, it's words. Isn't the words the guidelines we gave?
Yeah.
How many pages does 2,000 words come up?
Well, that's going to depend upon who writes it.
I know, but approximately. Pages, 2 pages, 3 pages.
Well, if it's a typewritten, it would be...
No, she's saying the average handwritten segment. Can you tell that?
I think 5 or 6 is
Yeah, well,
that's inadequate.
I wrote an 8-page segment, and I thought it was okay because of the pages, but when I counted the words, it was 3,200 words.
Maybe we have to go back and cut it back.
Didn't we want to limit it to 2,000?
Yes,
I didn't hear the plus or minus.
Well, it doesn't have, we said it didn't have to be exact. Like somebody had 2,035 and we said it doesn't matter. You know,
but
but we
I'm going
wanted...
to take 200. We're not saying that.
No, but that, actually, if it ran a couple hundred over, I don't think we would...
No, but we don't want to...
We're not setting that up, because some people will start writing 2,200. You see what we're saying?
Then before long, they'll add 200 to that,
Yeah.
you know, and we'll be back up. Now, what we're saying is try to stick to the 2,000 word. And if you happen to run over a little bit, no more than 200, then that's fine, but 2,000 is still the limit.
Well, like I turned in places where I came, it was 2,250 words, and I should have cut it back. I had a feeling it should cut. So
Well,
now,
see, you stood right there and told me a moment ago that it was 2,000, give or take 200. And then you turned in the second, it was 300 and something.
See, it's slowly messing up.
so I thought, well, I used the outside limit, and I had a little more to that. I should have cut back.
That's right.
Isn't it funny how vehicles are?
Sure.
So many. Our instruction was it in StarCraft says 2,000 words. I don't know if I'm instructing that to
That was on the tape with the...
No, it's
Oh,
so...
it's in the instruction. I could be wrong.
Well, they have it at the Northcraft, too, 2,000 words.
But we did say that they could go over a little bit if they had to get something. We didn't want them to stop writing mid-sentence, you know. But we want you to strive to stick to 2,000. And if you run over a little bit, like Andy Odie wrote one and it was 2,035, that's okay. We wouldn't want it to go and scratch out or into the
Close enough.
you know, to make it down. But it's close enough.
See, technically, 2,000 words, since we gave it that way, I feel like that if you had more than 49, if you want to get technical, if you had more than 49 extra words, that we might as well have said 2,100. Do you see what I'm saying? Because 50 or 51 is closer to 2,100. So, do you see what I'm saying? And that's the way I would have thought about it, that I'm closer to 2,100 than I am 2,000.
You can really say a lot if you get your thoughts together and make it simple. But if you try to flower it and make it sound like an intellectual...
You're going to say more. It's going to be more potent if you reduce it and keep reducing it than it is if you spread it out.
Some of these books that are published, they go into such detail about things that you really don't need to read all that stuff. But all they're trying to do is make more money from their books, so consequently they put more words in. But you're not making any money off of these segments. All you're doing is trying to keep the word power down. And say your thoughts where they are more concise and more, what is the word? Yes, consolidated, I guess. Where your thoughts are more consolidated.
Condensed.
Condensed and not flowered and when you waste your word on slang, I mean the words on slang, then you're really wasting something, remember? So you really want to use your words in the most right way. If you have to use slang, then it would be almost like a quote. You know, like that's the only way you can express yourself, not to use it just as a wasted word. So this way you can look at, when you're grading the segments, you can look to see if there are a lot of wasted words, a lot of thoughts that could have been combined in a more right way. And that again would help your thoughts for your own self.
Any questions about the computers or anything that you can think of there that we can...
When you said we were going to get 3 computers, I got a thought in my brain that you were going to have one here, we were going to hook the 2 of them, so that Retreat would be hooked up to the 2 crafts, and you would type in instructions.
No, I don't think Retreat will have one. Lakes might have one.
That's what I meant.
The Lakes is going.
And, well, if we get it worked out the way we want to, then we can just send things that way.
That's what I thought.
It's on the 3.
your facility, you mentioned that those that are doing typing and learning how to use computers. Are there any guidelines as to when you want that to happen?
Yes, sir. Any guidelines?
The guidelines of individuals like an Angelology who start learning how to...
Well, that's going to depend upon the people in your craft who know how to introduce you to using it and time available. Segments do not have to be typed or do not have to be put on the printer. But we said that you can, if time permits, put segments, have them printed. Like, let's say that there's someone in your craft who knows the computer sufficiently and has the time without letting any other tasks go that need to be taken care of, has the time to introduce some typists to how to use the computer in that way. As soon as those typists know how to use it and have been instructed by the person who knows how to use it, then, according to the availability of time, some segments can begin to be printed.
We received some copies of procedures that were written and copied on the printer. And in other words, they were showing us how it would look after it was written up. And we want to make sure that when the procedures are put in the computer, we don't want them written that way.
Now, see, those had no format. They weren't even...
In other words, it's just
that was just like... we're not going to use the computer just as a replacement to the way we now do procedures. We're going to use the computer according to a format of titles and subtitles and categories, and also going to have the people who are experienced in word processing and programming take our instruction and reduce it to a clear language that would... it's just like not anybody can go out and write a dictionary. Do you see what I'm saying? People who are experienced in writing dictionaries know how to write first use of that word, second use of that word, and how to do it with brevity, and where to put the accents, and which letters to put in bold, and where the punctuation comes, and all because they're experienced in using making dictionaries. Now, the same way, if we're going to use computers, we want to use them right. And we want to have our instructions brief and concise and done in a way that they should be done, in our minds, in computer usage. Not just to have a typing method or a screening method of doing instructions the way we used to do them. Like those that were typed and sent to us, they had no categories, they had no subtitles, they were signed by... I don't know who entered them, who typed them.
They both said it was different ones, but the thing of it is, we don't, if Joe agrees, you don't need to use the word the procedure is, because it will not be on the computer unless it's a procedure. And you want to eliminate words because your computer will only store so many words.
We've got to have a new language to get brevity out of it.
In other words, what was give me an example of one of the things that were written there that you all talked about. Do you remember a procedure that?
What had to do with say back another
Well, it doesn't matter.
Think of this,
You get
backing out of the ground, with backing out of the garage, so-and-so, such and such happened. In other words, you don't have to say...
The procedure is...
and you're backing out of the garage, you know. In other words, we don't want all that wasted words. So this is why we're going to limit it to people who have worked on programming.
For brevity.
Like Melody and Cerrone and Norrody has worked on a word processor. And I don't know if she's done programming, but she has had experience in that way.
Cerrone may have had some.
Cerrone and mentioned him. So far they are the only ones who can program. That doesn't mean that they can't work out a system where they can write the instruction down on a piece of paper and then somebody else put it in the computer. But we don't want it just anybody putting instructions into the program and that's it.
We don't want them writing them. We don't want them writing them or composing them. They have to be done by the people who know how to do it. Now, on Sundays, these people who've had experience can certainly spend a little time together, and otherwise, because since Nerody's in one craft, and
Well, the thing of it is, what we had told them to do is write up the instructions out of the book and get them in categories, and then they can
for our approval, we've asked them now to send us a format and some samples of how we would start programming, and for our approval before we start doing it.
I think that's what they're working on right now. I know you wrote something in the book now too. Was just taking the book entries and just feeding everything into categories, starting there. I don't think that the
See, I'm talking about something different from that.
Yes.
I'm talking about setting up an outline, a diagram of our titles and subtitles of how you get in, how you're going to key it, what's going to get you into the instructions concerning lab tools, or concerning vital signs, or concerning whatever it is.
There's an instruction program that Anthony brought with the computer, which gives fundamental what you need to do to correct and how you need to use in business. I was wondering if that would be appropriate for beginners to.
And I said, we told them last night, I think maybe since you all have been here, that it is procedure for everyone to learn how to use the computers. So everyone will not be doing typing, but they will all know how to use the computer sufficiently to receive from it. You see what? So that you can sit down and find the procedure you're after. But we're not going to teach everybody how to program or to enter procedures.
Well, we don't know if you need to go through all that.
I don't know everything, don't know what's happening.
Right. Now, the ones who are going to be typing, then whatever you need to learn. And we don't know if Pam Rody knows enough about it, but nor Rody knows enough about it that she can probably help her with typing. So you all can work it out. We don't want somebody thinking that they know something and playing with it, because, again, we would rather not abuse these computers in any way simply because they're loaners to us, and when we can use it as much as we can use it, we can wear it out pretty fast. So we want to keep all that into consideration. We wear out things faster than anybody, and we certainly don't want to wonder what the Rody and them do with those loaners that they borrow, or they running a computer business on the side or whatever you can do with those computers. So, keep all these things in mind when you're fooling with the computers.
Would you focus on one question about the segment? I think what might have confused time is that the segments were turned in, sometimes they would be 990 words, some would be 1,600 words, some would be 2,800 words, and they thought that through, you have to go through that through, that you're okaying that length. Because they found that try to prove is the 2,000 what you're shooting for, can you go under that?
We don't care how brief it is, as long as you have something to say. We've set the max.
Okay,
But we don't want a one-page section.
No, we have gotten some segments that were so short they didn't say anything.
We don't want words of wisdom. You know what I'm saying? In other words, when you get to one page, you're getting a word of wisdom, or you're philosophizing. So you couldn't possibly say much in just a page or page and a half. In other words, you're reverting to a method that words of wisdom or philosophizing.
But I noticed I just happened to read the names of signed the segment that came from Southside, and there were 12 people signed the segment, and I think there's 16 people in Southside. I thought this segment had been signed by all of them, but the parents of it, I should have noticed that too, but I have to cover it. This is going to go from Northside to Lane, and I don't think it's been signed by all the people in Southside, and I should be concerned about it, I should let them know that this
We've given the instructions. I've got to turn the computer off for a moment so one gets too much background noise. I think we said that your people are to read them and to grade them as quickly as they can grade them, but if they aren't being done within a reasonable period of time, that we're not going to let them wait just because one or two people haven't gotten around to.
But see, that's 4 people, that's coming too
Yeah,
fast.
that's
So
too fast.
why would we not do it? Do y'all know that?
Whether or not, I know it's happened to me, when I was, I'm very keen, but it seems like I thought I read all the segments, and I noticed that then some more were there, so like I don't have a checkoff sheet. I noticed that the Northwest has, and it seems to work there.
Well, why don't you have a checkoff sheet in South Carolina?
But see, I thought that 3 people were checking to see if everybody had read it before they sent it
They're
to
supposed to.
the North.
And the only reason we've let them come without everybody having read them is if they've said so-and-so has had 3 days, usually it's one individual, and they have not read it because of this or that or the other. And we've said there's no reason to hold it up. And but that does, we still want everybody to read it. We don't want individuals to think that we don't care if 1 or 2 of them don't exert the effort to read. As far as we're concerned, 50% of the lesson that you're learning in this little task is the effort that it takes for you to write these segments. Another 50% is what you should be learning by reading what other people have written. And it's very important. It's just as important that you read them and read them quickly and read them carefully as it is that you do your own.
And also, they sometimes put in the PN that such and such a segment is going to the North Craft now, and if everyone hasn't read it and signed it or graded it, that would be good, because we want to send it such and such a day. Because,
well, that's good.
So,
how much time, as a rule, are we leaving a segment after it's completed in craft before it's sent to Death Craft?
In our craft, I believe it's 2 to 3 retreat cycles, in other words, 9 days from.
You mean after it has been written?
After it has been written.
After it's been turned in and written, you're leaving it in your craft 9 days before it goes to the other craft? I hope you're wrong. At any rate, it's too long. It's too long.
That's the max. Usually, like if it's not turned in today, then obviously we can't read it until we get back.
I'd say that's twice as long as it should be. I'd say 4 days would be adequate. What do you say, Pete?
I think it's...
We're going now 3 days.
Well, what if people don't read it because it's too long? Too long at the time, you forget that it's even there. It's come in that day.
I'm thinking 3 retreat groups, but that's actually 6 days.
3 retreat groups is 6 days. Well, let's make 2 retreat groups. But wouldn't that be enough? 4 days?
I think so.
Can't you get them read in the craft in 4 days?
How long is it in the South Craft? Well, I could be wrong, but I think it's about that long.
6?
6 days at least, and even there's been times when it's been longer like that. I think the one that you may be referring to is several, like 3, each of them in that craft was 2 weeks. And we felt like it was just, we didn't know what else to do, so that's why we should go ahead and send it. And so, and who was it that did read it? I'm not really sure who.
See, the first one, it was your mistake. One of them I noticed was already been there. I tried to do it on the other one, and I noticed there were 12 signatures. I did, because it was a treat, so I came to it, and I don't know.
Segment, once it's ready to be read, the end date, in other words, the date that it is ready to be read would be the end date. IN, not END, but IN. And the out date is the date that it will head for length. Okay? And so all of you, and we want people to read them more carefully and more seriously and take the task of putting the task of reading them at a higher priority. If you have, it certainly is a higher priority than jogging or table tennis or TV or telescope. You don't have time for those things if you haven't done your segment reading, in our mind. And
those are all extra things, and this is something that is the least task that has been assigned to you to do, and do it quickly.
Agenda?
Okay. Well, I'm just going to say I did read Chakotay's. Didn't have a chance to read it. airport around to retreat to Escalona and go back.
Came with us.
We too.